Hello and welcome to the Shorts That Are Not Pants Virtual Film Festival 2020. I'm Shelagh Rowan-Legg, one of the programming team members, and I'm here with the writer and director of the PhD, Maxime S. Girard. Welcome, Maxime. We're delighted to have you.
Thanks. I'm glad to be there too. Thanks.
As someone who finished their PhD about 6 years ago and whose boyfriend is currently in the last year of his PhD, this short film really resonated with me in so many ways. Have you done a PhD?
I haven't done a PhD, and I'm not planning on doing one because in cinema, it's kind of if you want to work on film shoots, you don't necessarily need a PhD. But I have a couple of friends who went through the process. And one in particular, to which from whose story inspired the film, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's not necessarily specific to PhDs, but any sort of high pressure situation where so much can hinge on a single moment. Have you had those kinds of moments in your life that might have fed your creativity for this film?
Weirdly enough, I maybe sometimes, but this film, I really like. It came from a single story that one of my best friend told me at a point in his life where his relationship wasn't going really well, and he also had a lot of pressure from school and the university, and I kind of took that and went through my own experience of not being able, just the pressure of not knowing how to grow up. You're kind of thrown in this world, and it's just you figure out as it goes. And for me, that was the main inspiration for the main character of the film. And yeah.
One of the things I really love is how quickly we really understand these characters. And I think for each of them, for each Bruno and Jonathan, there's one detail that we get about him. And with Bruno, it's his obsession with his little toys, his figurines. Mm-hmm. And with Jonathan, it's that he was a vegan. He's a vegan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was your process in sort of including those kinds of finding those little details for us to understand who these people are, especially considering, we have to understand them in such a short span of time?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I write, I always try to base myself on real characters so that it always feel realistic. And in those instances, it's just two details, but it says so much about a person, about how they view the world. On the one side, you have someone who just wants to stay a child with his figurines, and you see that immediately. His whole world is kind of colored and naive, and in the opposite side, you have Jonathan, who has kind of on the marketplace for a long time. Who wants to maybe sees more on the long term, and that's why being a vegan is part of this thing of being just a better self kind of. Mm-hmm. And it's those two visions of continually growing forward versus staying back as with our innocence. That's yeah.
Well, there's so much with them. This idea of the youngish professional couple, and the pressure that brings, with finances and status, and they live in this, one of the very sort of apartment that we all kind of know what it looks like, with the living area, the dining area, and the kitchen, all open concept. There's not really many places to hide. This anxiety and pressure that comes out of being a grown-up, being an adult, and and doing something, whether it be getting your PhD or having a job, or and maybe Jonathan has his is obsessive about his figurine. Sorry, Bruno is obsessive about his figurines, but then Jonathan, how many bottles of wine are there in the refrigerator?
Yeah. But I would say like it's being grown up and sharing your life with someone, because
Mm-hmm.
like we can grow up the way we want and like nobody cares, but when you start to share life with someone and you live with them, that's when you have like there's those two visions that clashes, and that's what happened in the film. Like it's two visions of the world that clash, and they can't find a middle ground, and that's what brings down like the mess that happens in the film.
Did you have an idea, either something that you wrote down or you're just aware of in your head, of their history as individuals and or as a couple that would have like leading up to that point?
Yes, I did. Like they've been together like maybe for what 3 years, but it only like they only started living together like 6 months ago. So
Okay.
and it's from that point that it started to go downhill. Because as long as you're not necessarily like living in the same space as someone, you're not like you can kind of compartmentalize your life. Like you have your home life, you have your life with your lover, and like, professional life. But when everything goes together, it's that's when the clashes happen, and that just I don't know.
Yeah. And the actors, they're such wonderful actors. I felt like I knew them. And the actress who plays Mathilde also, she's terrific.
Yeah.
That moment at the beginning, with the first time I watched it, I just started laughing because I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what she's going through. What was your process in working with Bruno and Jonathan in order to get them? Because they have to immediately have that connection and chemistry of a couple who's been together for a long time. So what was your process working with them?
Well, we just like we met together a couple of times. Like we rehearsed, we worked together the backstory of those characters, and I was like, I don't care if you like ad lib or just go on your own. Like you don't have to follow the script. But they didn't actually listen to me. They followed the script. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine too. But just rehearsing and trying different approaches to the scenes help them like build chemistry together. And as you said, they're so great. Like it's the film is completely on their shoulders, and they nailed it. And you believe everything that happens in the film, even as it goes crazy, because of them. And yeah, it's just a matter of rehearsals and working the characters together.
How long did you shoot? How long did you have for shooting?
We had 3 days. One day at the university that is not really a university, and 2 days in the apartment. So it was pretty intense 3 days. And yeah, so yeah.
That's good. I mean, the space works so well because they not Bruno can't hide from Jonathan, and
exactly.
and it's and I love the fact that neither of them are they look like normal people. They're just average people. They're not neither of them are beauty queens, nor are they extremes. They're just average people, like might be my friend that I meet at a coffee shop at some point. I felt like I would have been hearing this story from one of them. You wouldn't believe what happened to me.
That's cool. Yeah, that's the point.
What do you find? Like, I know that a lot of people make shorts and then aim to make features, but I find the short format works so well. Is there a reason why you felt this story had to be told? Like it worked best as a short?
Honestly, like I just went from the starting point, which was like this kind of argument, which led to what happens at the end of the film. And I was like, I didn't know at first how long it was going to be. I just said, I'm going to write it and feel it. And in the end, it gave a screenplay of 23 pages. And I was like, okay, I'll go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't try to make it longer or shorter. Like, I tried to make it shorter, actually, but it didn't work. So I stick to the 20 minutes length. But I think it works really well for this story. And maybe I'll expand it in a feature. I don't know. I love those characters. But for this story,
I don't think, I think it's, it's when working with short films, you often say any short that's over 15 minutes really has to work hard to earn its running time. But the PhD really does. Like I didn't even really notice the time passing. I felt very involved with these people. And I think, did the space come before when you were writing the script, especially with the setting? Did you know you wanted a close-in apartment like that, or was that just what you ended up with, and so you worked within the space that you had available to you?
Well, that's weird because I imagined the story in the place where I knew my friend lived at the time, which was a kind of like super huge kitchen merged with the living room. So when I was looking for a location, I was already looking for that kind of space because I wanted to play around and have the characters move around in the space. Like, they started in the living room and then they moved to the kitchen area. They have a little bit of wine and like have the space be part of this kind of struggle between them and play with it. And as it goes, it just like starts getting crazy, it throws the computer and yeah.
Yes, so, I gasped when the computer went in the sink. Just knowing that was the end of that very expensive piece of hardware. But then I also completely understood why Bruno was doing it. Do you have any upcoming projects that you're working on?
I do.
Yes.
Keep
an eye out for.
I'm working on a horror comedy right now. I shot part of it, and I'm gonna shoot maybe the rest in April because COVID.
Yes, it was something I was thinking about too. With Bruno's anxiety, how would he feel now if it was set now? What would the difference?
Yeah. Oh God. Yep. I wouldn't even.
Yeah.
I don't even want to imagine that. But...
Well, he could legitimately postpone things, saying, we can't do anything about it right now. Everything is shut down.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It was great to have your film in the festival, and we look forward to seeing more of your work in the future.
Thanks. I'm glad to be there, and thank you for the interview. It's really nice.